Hey there everybody, welcome to this next lesson. Here we're going to be working on the same thing we did before with the mage, but we're going to fraction this one up in armor, design, and action lines. So that you guys can see more or less how we would represent a tank character. Alright, so my tank is oriented towards like a knight theme. In this case it's this woman right here who is wearing heavy armor, and her tool, her weapon, is a sword that's also pretty big. I wanted to represent her like this, basing myself off the color of the tank style that I might like more, and then I might, I just might like this whole theme a bit more. For example, I decided to give her a cape, and I also added a badge that might represent the family she's protecting. And for example, in my case, I've tried to adapt the color to a set of color tones that are a bit more cold, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the character's gender. I'm going to start this time with a woman. Alright, to be honest, it was quite hard for me to make this bust in the beginning because I wanted to find a representation of a woman, that was serious, but I didn't want her to be too masculine, I wanted to keep her feminine features. Obviously, you guys can draw your girl however you want, but I wanted her appearance to be a little bit more delicate. Even though her function here is basically to defend and attack with a lot of strength, I still wanted to have that, softer aesthetic. I'm making this video going fast forward, so maybe you're not entirely going to get the idea of the complexity that representing a woman this way can be, For me, in this case, for the faces, I don't normally use any references. They're easy for me, and they seem to go really fast. But this comes from practice and drawing stuff over and over again for character designs. Alright, I'm not super into this one, and in this case, with this face, I'm pretty not into what I can achieve. But I am going to get some weird complex ideas, and I'm going to end up being indecisive when I try to represent my character. Our woman knight. She's our tank, man. She's cool. However, like I said, with the drawing, not counting the images in the first lessons, I did them from scratch because the drawing we have here on the left with the, the blonde woman with the cape and the sword is something I drew before. But obviously, I want to get, different possibilities and concepts from one idea. As you can see, the image I've ended up with represents that seriousness that I want to see in our tank. In the case of this woman here, I would like to leave clear that either they have their hair tied up or they have quite short hair. Seeing as hair is something that can get in the way when you're fighting with a big sword. Okay. For example, this would be a representation of what the head would look like from behind. In this case, it's a braid that goes around and holds the woman's hair up. Okay, I'm going to do the same now, but I'm going to try and represent the face of a knight. But this time it's going to be a masculine dude. I'm going to continue applying like a straight nose. I don't know why, but I really like a straight nose in male characters. But with men, maybe longer hair isn't going to be something that gets in the way, but normally with knights, if they don't have an armor that includes a helmet, they normally like allow themselves to have like longer hair on male characters. You know, we can think about Aragorn, you know, from Lord of the Rings. All right, I want his features to represent that seriousness that we're looking for in this case of a tank. And I don't know, maybe if we draw inspiration from like a square figure, it's going to help us while designing. I like to put in those spontaneous scars, maybe on the face, because they give off like that ruggedness. And if you look on the woman on the left that I've drawn, I've given her a scar over her eye that I really think gives her like a mysteriousness about her. It gives her like a strong personality when designing her. All right, so there we would have more or less have our male knight dude finished. Let's move on now to the weapons. Sorry, just doing a thing. Okay, let's move on now to the weapons and the different designs that they might have. Okay. Like I've said before, we're going to be able to find weapons that are going to be like swords or axes. Weapons that are pretty heavy that our character has to load with as a kind of shield as well, so they can use it both to defend themselves and attack. When designing a weapon, you kind of have to think about, firstly, the kind of weapon it's going to be and what it's for. If we're in the medieval world right now, a sword would probably be more fitting for a knight. You can add maybe a few scratches so that it looks older and like used. Or maybe if you prefer something that's a little more classical, you can take reference from any sword you might find. Then you can show off in the handle. Maybe give it like a complex decoration or something that's a bit more fitting with the armor and the design of the character. Okay, you have to try and make it so that the weapons don't fit entirely when you're making a design of a character in this style. A thin weapon wouldn't fit very well. With armors, for example, you have to keep in mind that the design that you want to use, for example, I'm going to be designing a shoulder pad using like a sharper shape. And maybe like I was saying before with the rings for the mages, we can include that kind of magical effect to try to incorporate maybe like a dragon figure on the armor. I gave it the eye. Maybe I can put in some horns. You guys have to like try to express that ruggedness and braveness that we're going to see in a tank character. Alright, like I was saying with the rings and the jewelry, try and combine different things. Okay? And there you would have it. What I mean by this is that basically you want to design a shield and you don't want to think too much about it, so I've used a tower and a wolf. I could draw inspiration from Game of Thrones, but everyone kind of gets it from where they want to get it from. That's up to you. For example, what I was trying to say right now was on the color palette, the blues I've been using that might represent more seriousness, more loyalty. It all depends on what you want, okay? And the next lesson we're going to continue onwards with our tank. So let's go. See you later. Bye.